Right, let us give a round of applause to CyberSecurity Malaysia. That is the video for their PSA, Public Service Announcement on Anti-Scam. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, the digital transformation in ASEAN's banking and Islamic finance sectors is driving innovation, but also exposing institutions to rising cyber, data, and fraud risks. Our next panel session unites experts from Malaysia, Cambodia, and Laos to discuss strategies for strengthening cyber resilience, enhancing digital trust, and safeguarding system integrity. Participants will explore practical measures and regional collaboration to protect institutions, customers, and public confidence across ASEAN. To further elaborate on the discussion titled Safeguarding Trust, Strengthening Cyber Resilience in Banking and Islamic Finance Across ASEAN, please join me to welcome the panelists, Mr. Syed Ahmad Taufik Albar, Chairman of the National Task Force to Combat Fraud Maybank, Mr. Kamtan Fanda Noon Vong, Technical Officer, Research and Policy Making Divisions, Bank of Laos, Mr. Tang Roosevelt, Cybersecurity Specialist of the General Department of ICT, Cambodia. And last but not least, please welcome Dr. Sarah Khadijah Taylor, Specialist, Digital Forensics, Cybersecurity Malaysia. And to facilitate the discussion, please welcome Mr. Ahmad Izham bin Khairuddin, Head of Transformation Unit, Cybersecurity Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, for Q&A, you may submit your related questions to the panelists via QR code on slido.com, which will be displayed later on the screen. And upon log on, please choose room Safeguarding Trust to project your questions. Mr. Ahmad Izham, the stage is now yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all of you. My name is Izham Khairuddin, Head of Transformation at CyberSecurity Malaysia, and it is actually my honor to be here today to moderate today's session. We are here today to engage in a forward-looking conversation exploring the intersection of cyber resilience, anti-fraud measures, and regulatory frameworks that are essential for securing the rapid digital expansion of Islamic finance across ASEAN. And the goal is actually to delve into hopefully actionable strategies that reinforces the institutional resilience and safeguard customer trust against the region's increasingly sophisticated threat landscape. Before we proceed, I think I will introduce my panelists that we have here, very distinguished panelists. First, we have Mr. Syed Ahmad Taufik Albar, who is the Group CEO of Community Financial Services at Maybank. In this role, he leads Maybank's retail, SME and wealth businesses across 7 ASEAN countries, which contributes approximately 60% to about 60% of the group's net operating income. He is responsible for driving strategy execution, customer experience transformation, and operational excellence across the region. He brings over 25 years of leadership experience spanning banking, telecommunications, and infrastructure, and with a strong track record in driving strategic growth and transformation across sectors. Prior to joining Maybank, he held key leadership roles at RHB Banking Group, including Managing Director for Group Wholesale Banking, Group International Business, and Group Chief Financial Officer. He has also served in senior finance roles at Group, Smart Axiata Cambodia, Celcom Axiata, and spent over a decade with Royal Dutch Shell across its global upstream and downstream businesses. Taufik is also involved in various internal and industry leadership platforms, where he contributes to discussions on financial sector development, sustainability, and talent development. His experience spans business transformation, digitalization initiatives, and cross-border operations across ASEAN and beyond. Very impressive indeed, right? And next, I would like to introduce Mr. Kamtan Pandanuwong. Sorry, Mr. Kamtan Pandanuwong, who is the Technical Officer, Research and Policy Making Division. He is a technical officer in the Research and Policy Making Division, where he is actively involved in developing national strategies related to cloud computing and cybersecurity policy. His work supports the digital transformation efforts of the Laos PDR by shaping forward-looking and secure digital infrastructure. He holds a master's degree in digital transformation from Sungsil University, South Korea, and possesses a deep understanding of cloud technologies and artificial intelligence. His expertise bridges technical innovation with policy making, allowing him to contribute meaningfully to both national and regional digital policy dialogues, of which one of it is today. And he has a very strong background in emerging technologies and cybersecurity, which makes him a valuable speaker in discussions focused on enhancing cyber resilience. Next, I would like to introduce Mr. Roosevelt Tang, who is a cybersecurity specialist, Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications. His experience is in offensive security team, as a offensive security team lead and consultant with more than 5 years of hands-on experience. He has led red team operations across banking and critical infrastructure, served with a Big Four firm, and contributed to national infrastructure security at Cambodia's Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications. His focus is mainly on adversary emulation, purple teaming, and turning technical findings into executive action. His credentials include OSCP and OSCP from Offensive Security and Burp Suite Certified Practitioner from Port Swigger, as well as a Master of Science in Cybersecurity candidate with the University of Liverpool, United Kingdom, advancing expertise in offensive operations aligning to globally recognized frameworks such as Matter Attack, NIST Cybersecurity Framework, and ISO IEC 27001 to ensure technical rigor translates into measurable risk reduction. And last but not least, I would like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Sarah Khadijah Taylor, who is a digital forensics specialist with more than 15 years of experience in the field. She's currently working with me in CyberSecurity Malaysia. She has authored several digital forensics guidelines, including the ISO 27037, Interpol Global Guidelines for Digital Forensics Laboratories, United Nations Digital Evidence Best Practice Guide, as well as the Interpol Guidelines for Seizing Virtual Assets. She has successfully led several digital forensics labs into achieving ISO 17025-2017 accreditation, including Oman, Brunei, and Uzbekistan. Apart from that, she is also a digital forensics consultant for United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, and also an adjunct lecturer for master's program in several local universities. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very, very distinguished group of panelists here. So I really hope that you would also take, while I will actually ask them questions, I will drill them, ask them very, very hard questions. I will also hope that all of you actually take this opportunity to ask questions to each or all of the panelists, any or all of the panelists here today, so that we can actually gain as much knowledge as possible from them. Okay? All right. Now that the introductions have been done, let's get the ball rolling. As a bit of a background, Islamic finance is unique because it's built on a bedrock of trust and ethics. And as we embrace digital transformation, based on what the presentation just now, I think our first question is simple, but yet profound. How do we protect this very foundation in a world of unseen cyber threats? I'd like to ask each of you to give us your opening thoughts on the most significant threat to trust in our digital Islamic finance ecosystem. I'll start with Dr. Sarah. From a technological standpoint, what's one emerging threat that generally keeps you concerned about the integrity of the system? Are we talking about a new kind of technical attack, or is it something else? Dr. Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Good morning to J1 Roshaimi, CTO of CyberSecurity Malaysia, our distinguished panelists, yeah, and I would also like to welcome our international participant. Yeah, I hope you have a great time here in Malaysia. Welcome to Malaysia. Right. So to answer your questions, yeah, Moderator. So if I have to pinpoint one emerging threat that really concerns me, it would be not just a single attack technique, but convergence of AI-driven attacks with highly sophisticated financial fraud campaign. Yeah? So actually we are seeing threat actors leveraging generative AI and automated scripting, yeah? To mimic trusted entities, and they forge transaction trails, yeah? And even manipulate biometric system. For example, in Malaysia, yeah, Security Commissions has provide a public warning, yeah, about deepfake investment scam early this year in March 2025, where a deepfake video of top political figures and several corporate figures sitting in the same space, yeah, promoting investment scheme. Yeah? So it was said that this investment scheme was endorsed by Malaysian government. So luckily we found out, and then the Security Commissions come out with a public warning. So this is a sample of a case, and we have many, many other cases as well. Speaking of ASEAN, yeah, because this is ASEAN conference, so United Nations has reported that cyber scammers in Southeast Asia has stolen up to 37 billion US dollar. 37 billion US dollar, that's a huge amount of money. I think it's equivalent to the GDPA of Georgia country, 1 year of GDPA. So it's a huge amount of money. So according to UN, these criminal groups, yeah, in countries like Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia, they employed AI generative deepfakes, yeah, and blockchain to execute frauds, including romance investor scam and other kind of scams, crypto fraud, and illegal gambling. Illegal gambling is quite a huge topic in Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So this operation often involve under-regulated online platforms and also crypto exchanges in their countries to launder stolen funds. So there's a growing, growing evidence that AI, deepfake, and impersonation technologies and automated tools are being used as enablers to commit this crime. Yeah? But beyond the technology itself, what we is seeing is the real risk of erosion of trust, especially to the banking system and financial institution. So like a deepfake CEO authorizing a fraudulent transfer, yeah? Or forged consent in contract. So this incident don't just create financial losses, but they shake confidence in the system. Yeah? So my background is digital forensic. So from a forensic standpoint, this issue is quite a huge challenge for us, yeah? Because it's not easy for us to, to create a complete evidence chain of custody, yeah? To attribute the crime with the suspect. Yeah? It's very difficult. We have this crime, we have this evidence, but how do we attribute it to the suspect? Yeah? Because suspect using persona right now. And the analysis process in proving or disapproving that multimedia files is authentic, yeah? Video, image, pictures, and so on. So to answer to the questions, so it's both a new kind of technical attack and something bigger, a shift in the threat landscape where trust itself is under attack.
Wow, okay, that's a bit scary as well. I think I'll move towards next to Roosevelt from Cambodia's perspective, as a nation rapidly digitizing its economy, what is the biggest challenge to building trust with a new generation of digital consumers? Is it a lack of awareness, or what is it in Cambodia?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and good morning, everyone. From Cambodia's vantage point, I truly believe that awareness isn't the core challenge or the primarily challenge. It's more of a larger scales. The thing is, it's predictability. Young consumers such as myself, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, we are looking for rails to see if it works the same way every time, and also if across ministry, banks, platforms. So when they judge mostly not based on slogans and not on billboards. So what I'm trying to say is in Cambodia, we are trying to build three things: digital governance, payment interoperability, and also data exchange. So the young consumers, they want to know when they share their data are being securely processed, and their data purpose are used for what they're consented for us as well. So when we build those three things, I believe that trust will not be, we won't be saying, please believe us. So it's not built it in, it will be built it in rather than bolted on. So in a short way, I truly believe that the awareness is just an amplifier on the trust, but it cannot substitute it. Yes.
Okay, very interesting. Transparency is very important in this, right? I'm moving to Kamtan next. What's the most significant risk to financial stability in Laos posed by a cyber threat? And how does that impact public trust in the financial system? Can I have your thoughts on that, please?
Thank you, Moderator. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Very good morning. So I'm happy to be in Malaysia. So thank you for the question again. So from the central bank's viewpoint, so one of the most significant risks to financial stability is the potential of disruption of banking system and payment services. For example, core banking system, which is the main core payment system in commercial banks and in Laos. So a successful cyber attack can even block our customer transaction and sensitive customer data. So, and even damage the financial operations. So trust in is everything. So if the people doubt whether their money is safe or whether their data is protected, so they may hesitate to use our digital services and even traditional banking system altogether. So if we lose trust, people can even withdraw the money from the bank or from the ATM. So for example, for the trust, if we got in the taxi 2 times or 3 times, if we got an accident, we can still trust another driver and we got in the taxi. But in the digital services, if we were hacked once, a single attack, people will lose faith and they won't trust our digital services. So that is our concern. And the trust in the government, and especially the central bank. And if people were hacked, so how we can track, we can recover we can help them to take back the money. So, and that's why building a strong resilience is not just a technical issue, it's a strategy priority as well. So without trust, financial stability is at risk. So thank you.
All right. I think trust is the core message that we're getting here. And I'm going to Taufik now. As someone on the front line of fraud prevention, where do you see the biggest vulnerability is? Is it the technology we use, or is it the human element that can be easily exploited? Your thoughts, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning. Thank you for the question. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm certainly, given the topic at hand, I'm probably the least qualified person to talk about cybersecurity and cyber resilience, but I'll do my best, perhaps not from a technical perspective. When it comes to vulnerability, as per your question, I think it's a bit of both. I don't think there is a single point of vulnerability that is common across different situations, different countries. I think it's a mix of many things. But if I were to zoom in into two areas, one is people, the humans, and the other one is technology. It's a combination of both. And the thing about security and our fight against scam and fraud is that we always have to remember that the fraudsters and the scammers will be relentless in their search for the weakest link. You can count on that. They will be relentless in their effort to find the weakest link. And the weakest link could change from time to time, and it can be different from person to person. A person who's highly educated, you know, you have the latest gadget, with the latest iOS, with the latest protection. But as the keynote speaker shared earlier, maybe that person is desperate to get a maid because double income household, both husband and wife working, who's going to take care of the kids, who's going to keep the house clean, who's going to cook the food, desperate for help. That desperation will probably be the weakest link of that person that the scammer and the fraudster will exploit. There may be somebody else who may not have the financial means and may be using a phone with an outdated operating system that has not kept up with the latest protection available in the market. That could be that person's weakest link. But the point that we should always remember is the scammer will look for the weakest link. The weakest link could also be the emotion that you are most vulnerable to, right? So they will always they will deploy social engineering techniques that are designed to discover what your emotional weakest link is. In my role as the chairman of the National Task Force in combating fraud for banks in Malaysia, I've spoken with a number of police officers. So the police officers will tell me when they do raids on, what's the terminology? Scam farms. Scam pun ada farms sekarang. So scam farms. The scam farms tend to be very nice luxury condos in exclusive areas. So those are the kind of places that they turn to become a scam farm. So when they raid the scam farms, what do they find? They find booklets of scripts that the scammers follow. So they are well trained with good structured reference material that they use to perform the social engineering. And what is the social engineering meant to do? Is to discover your weakest link. So the point of vulnerability, Izham, is a bit of both. A bit of the human emotions, and of course, a bit of technology. So it's our job to make sure that we combat at both ends. And maybe just a bit of sharing, if I wouldn't do my job as the chairman of the task force, if I don't flash that on screen. So these are some of the basic hygiene factor steps that banks in Malaysia have taken. Many of you who, if you come from the industry, you will know this. For some of the audience who may not be from the industry, hopefully this is a useful reference point. These are the 5 steps that the banks have taken. Of course, in collaboration with Bank Negara as our regulator. So no more OTPs. Now everything needs to be in-app approval. Fraud detection rules. All banks, Bank Negara have made it mandatory for all banks to tighten and strengthen their fraud detection rules so that we can detect certain patterns that may not be common to the behavior of the person. Right? If the person never ever transfers money at 2 a.m. in the morning, suddenly out of the blue, the person performs a series of transactions, in the wee hours of the morning. So that is the sort of detection capabilities that the banks must have at the minimum. Single mobile device, a lot of noises from the rakyat, the citizens, the businesses, when banks decided to do this, but it's for their protection. Cooling off period, again, a lot of complaints and grumbling because of the cooling off period. I myself also face, a lot of difficulties when it comes to make certain bulky one-off payments. Then I discovered that I'm unable to because I have to increase my limit first. And then I have to wait 12 hours before I'm able to perform. And the recipient is chasing me for money. And I'm sure many of you face the same thing. And of course, a dedicated 24/7 hotline now is made available, not just with the banks, but also via the National Scam Response Center that Malaysian government have set up. But I must say that these 5 are the hygiene factors. These are the bare minimums. The bare minimum that have been done in concert across all banks in Malaysia. But there are many more initiatives on top of this that individual banks have done. For example, kill switch. For example, some banks, including where I work in Maybank, they have rolled out the money lock feature, where you can lock certain amount of money within your account so that they can never be touched unless you go to the branch, the physical branch, and unlock that sum of money. So these are additional things. And maybe one last thing to leave the audience with, if you don't mind. What do all these measures and the additional measures do? It adds friction. It adds friction to the customer's experience, where things otherwise would have been more seamless, smoother. These things are designed to add friction. So we are in a world today where we have to balance convenience with friction, with the objective of creating security, resilience, and safety. Where is that sweet spot? How much friction should you introduce in the name of resilience, security, and safety? Or how much seamlessness and smoothness should you introduce in the name of customer experience? That sweet spot is an ongoing challenge that all banks, financial institutions, investment firms will have to grapple for years to come.
All right, thank you. I think I like what you mentioned just now. Scammers and hackers, they always look for the path of the least resistance. And I think the steps that the banks in Malaysia are taking, these 5 steps at the very least, actually adds a lot of resistance to their efforts in trying to scam everyone. So, and it's also clear that from your answers that the threats, the challenges are both technical and human. So I would like to dig deeper into the human element, which you mentioned also, well, it can be the weakest link in the security chain. So Taufik, from your experience, what are the most effective human-centric strategies? Because you mentioned just now is what the banks are doing, but for both customer and employees, what are the most effective human-centric strategies that Islamic finance institutions can deploy to build a stronger defense against fraud? And if you have any examples that you can share with the audience here, that would be great as well.
Thank you. That's a very deep question. When you link it to Islamic finance, You know, what does Islam even mean? Right? Islam comes from the root word that actually means peace. And imagine if you are banking with an Islamic financial institution and you don't have peace of mind, then I think we have failed spectacularly. Right? So it's our job to be able to introduce that peace of mind. And peace of mind comes in many shapes or forms, because why do most people gravitate towards Islamic banking? Not just the Muslims, even the non-Muslims who place importance on certain universal values that are held very dearly in Islam. They also gravitate towards Islamic banking. In fact, at Maybank, I'm proud to say that within the retail portfolio, 70% of the loans that we have outstanding are Islamic, right? And only 30% are conventional. So a lot of people gravitate. People gravitate to get peace of mind from the angle of Sharia compliance. That's the first thing. They want a peace of mind that they are not participating in riba and they are not doing what they're not supposed to do from an Islamic standpoint. But as a service provider, I think it is incumbent upon us to also ensure that there is peace of mind, also in the form of not just Sharia compliance, but resilience, security, safety of their hard-earned assets, their hard-earned life savings that are placed in trust with the bank. So it's really important. So if you ask me what would be the most effective strategies to deliver that trust, okay, again, I will pick the non-technical solution. I'm sure there'll be many other very effective technical solutions that I will leave to my expert colleagues here in the panel to elaborate more. But from a non-technical standpoint, I would focus on the people element. And I would zoom in into two key participants. That is the customers and the employees of the banks and the financial institutions. Right? So to the customers, beyond any doubt, we all, and I'm also a customer, right? Not just as an employee, as you read out my background, I've not long in the bank. In fact, I spent a longer time of my career outside of a bank. So I've been longer as a customer of a bank than I am as a banker, right? So I speak first and foremost as a customer of a bank. I think it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we keep up with the knowledge of the modus operandi of the scammers so that we protect ourselves first and foremost. It's our asset. Yes, we place our asset in trust with the banks, but it's our asset. It's not the bank's asset. So first and foremost, we have to own up to the responsibility of learning, understanding, being aware, and more than being aware, having actually a deep understanding of what the modus operandi of the scammers are and equip ourselves with the know-how to prevent ourselves from falling victim. That's the first thing. And emotion also come into place. How do we keep our emotions in check? Scammers, when they deploy social engineering techniques, they focus on many things. They will try anything under the sun to get your hard-earned money. But if I were to summarize, they focus on three key emotions: fear, greed, and love. So how do we make sure that we equip ourselves, that we are not over-exuberant when it comes to greed, fear, and love? Greed, I've seen, because as a chairman of the task force, I've seen details of cases where people chase high returns on investment schemes that do not exist. I have seen an 80-year-old lady who was convinced by a scammer to move her hard-earned money, 800,000 ringgit worth, that's almost 200,000 US dollars, into another bank account that she was convinced to set up using the mobile number of the scammer. Within a few days, 50,000 ringgit go out, 800,000 ringgit hard-earned money. How was she convinced? She was convinced because the scammer told her, if you move money into this bank account, you can get 8% FD return, fixed deposit or time deposit. There is no such thing. If there is 8% return on FD, nobody will invest in equity. Everybody will just put money in fixed deposit. But you were chasing that. 800,000 ringgit life savings gone. So that's greed. Fear. How many people are getting calls to say that we have evidence that you are involved in money laundering, or you send something that contravenes something illegal that contravenes the law, right? And your parcel is stuck, and we're going to investigate you, and you could go to jail, right? So you need to move your money to this bank account, and we're going to transfer you to speak to this police inspector. He'll give you the details. Or they pretend that they are from Ben Negara. And they even pretend that they are from the National Scam Response Center, right? So that's fear. And love, of course, right? All the love scams, everything, it. It's so rampant these days. So we have to make sure that we know the modus operandi, and we know the vulnerability point that scammers would like to exploit. Then the second point is about the employees. And this is something that all banks, Maybank in particular, but I know my colleagues across all the banks also place a lot of importance, is to equip our staff to be vigilant, to pause and reflect. Gone are the days where staff at the branches, all they do is process your transactions as fast as possible. In the past, that was the case. If they don't do it, they get scolded by the customer. And some of you may be angry also. Why is it taking you so long? Why are you so slow? Why are you asking me too many questions? Unfortunately, the world that we live in today, that's their job. Their job is to pause, ask you some tough questions to protect the customers. So there are cases where customers come to the bank and the staff can see that the customer has a live call on the phone. The phone is on and there's a live call going on while the customer is talking to the teller. The teller refused to honor the transaction. What's the result? Save 100,000 ringgit from actually leaving the customer's bank account. There's another case where the customer didn't have a live call because the customer was already coached in an earlier call. But the call has ended. The coach, the scammer has coached, go to the branch, tell the branch, I would like to withdraw, 80,000 ringgit because I want to do house renovation. Luckily enough, the staff has been trained. House renovation is a common excuse used by the scammers when they coach the customer to justify unusually large withdrawals from the banks. So, again, managed to stop because the staff was vigilant, well-trained, and actually paused and don't rush through the transactions. So if you ask me, some of the most effective techniques are not rocket science techniques. It's a technique that involves educating ourselves, learning, understanding. Don't be too exuberant about chasing a high return. Don't be too exuberant about fearing for your life. You're a law-abiding citizen all your life. Even you have never even ran a red light. Never even jaywalk. Cross the street also, you wait until the light turns green before you cross the street. And then somebody calls you to say that you are committing money laundering and you actually believe. How is that possible, right? So there is a saying in English, right? It's too good. If it's too good to be true, it is probably not true. There is another saying that I would like to introduce. If it's too bad to be true, it's also probably not true. It's just unthinkable that somebody like you are being accused of committing money laundering and about to go to jail. If it's too bad to be true, it's probably not true. So please, I hope you spread this advice to your loved ones, to your parents, to your uncles, your aunts, because these are the vulnerable people within our community.
Very interesting insights, that's for sure. All right, and I'm moving to Kamtan now. From a regulatory perspective, how does the central bank foster a culture of cybersecurity awareness and compliance, not just within financial institutions, but across the entire population? What's the biggest challenge in making this a national priority, please?
Thank you for the question. So we focuses on three main areas. So first, we establish clear regulations and standards. So this include requirement for we set risk management, incident reporting, and regular system assessment. So which help institutions to strengthen their resilience. For the second, we prioritize public education and awareness. We work closely with the ministry, telecompany, and schools to raise digital literacy and to promote safe online behavior. So third, we promote collaboration and information sharing. So we have created platform where banks and other stakeholders can exchange their trade intelligence and best practices. So this kind of cooperation is essential for early detection and coordinated responses to emergency risks. So we are implementing the regulation, the instructions. We are drafting in the central bank, and next year we're gonna launch how we can share we will share the information and the incident with the commercial banks. And the most importantly is the cybersecurity education. So must be clear and practical and easy to understand. So we must avoid technical explanations and instead use relatable example like simple language and engage formats like short video and visual to make message accessible to everyone. So when people think about cyber threat, how to let them not to be afraid of cyber, how we can make them feel like a fun emoji and make them easy to understand. Mostly people in the rural area. So now we don't concern much about banks or commercial banks or small institutions, but we concern on the people, how to educate them, those in the rural area. So when we move to digital service, now we are scattering, but when we move to digital age, we have to be in the same group. People in rural area also come to in the same group because we are using a new technology. So thank you.
Yeah, I like you mentioned that you have to make it very easy for people, because in my previous position, I was actually promoting cyber safety to everyone, and it's not very easy. But I always like to give an example about passwords, on how you should treat passwords. What I mentioned, what I did tell everyone during my talks to people is that you should treat your passwords like your underwear. Why? Because don't show it to anyone. Don't share it with anyone. And most of all, you have to keep it private to yourself, right? So, and change it often. I forgot about that. Yes, and change often. Don't just use the same underwear for the longest time. All right? Okay. See, that is how you can relate to something that is technical, but something that you can understand easy. So I think there's a lot of effort going in that direction. But I want to look at the technical aspects. Now, I would like to ask a question to Dr. Sarah. From a technological and operational viewpoint, how can institutions use tools like AI and behavioral analytics which I think Taufik did mention earlier, to detect human vulnerabilities before they lead to a major incident. How do you use technology to protect people from themselves?
Thank you. So, well, from cybersecurity perspective, human is always the weakest link, like Cik Taufik mentioned just now. But then they can also be a strongest defense when provided by the right tools. Yeah? So from a technological and operational viewpoint, institution can leverage AI and behavioral analytics to establish a kind of an early warning system. Yeah? I'm sure some of the banks or most of the banks here in Malaysia already have this, but let me just explain. So instead of waiting for a breach to happen, the system can continuously learn what normal looks like how transaction is being conducted by this group of users, how staff log on, how customer interacts with the platforms. So when there's a deviation, the system can red flag this and perhaps prevent this activity from escalating. More than that, so AI can also be used to identify risky human behaviors before they result in major incidents. So for example, this particular group, they have repeated engagement with phishing email. And this particular group, another particular group, has a poor credential hygiene, never change password, for example. Or this particular group have unusual access to sensitive system. So institution can then implement targeted awareness campaign or automated alerts, or even have a workflow restriction to prevent this issue from escalating. Right, so when I was given this topic, Izham, so as a digital forensic analyst, far from this finance and banking background, of course I have to do my research. So I come across a YouTube video from last month by Desmond Ng. He was talking about modernizing Islamic core banking with AI. I really recommend you to watch this because it's very technical. It gives you practical approach on how to modernize bank through AI. So he had shared a very insightful point, I think. So according to him, AI can be used to learn data to find pattern. Yeah, we know this. But more than that, it can assess individual or institution risk, by not solely relying on credit score. Like in Malaysia, we have CITOS agency to provide credit score. So we can use alternative data points such as business cash flow or transaction history, to come out with a risk score, for example. Yeah, so I'm also not a Islamic banking expert, but I do know that to ensure a product or a transaction is satisfying to a Sharia compliance, that involves thoughtful attention and really special attention, because there are many school of thoughts. Correct me if I'm wrong, So you have to, well, if you want to go global, you have to take care of all these school of thoughts. So what AI allows us to do is to provide real-time monitoring transactions, automatic flag any non-compliant elements like riba, usury or gharar, uncertainty, and generate insights, if needed, for the Sharia board, custom-made to each of the school of thoughts. So I imagine if you have to use manual process, well, this can be very nightmare for the people who need to do this. So as there are too many documentations to look into, the rules are quite tedious. You need to digest all this in order to derive into a decision. So using tools, technology like AI, maybe it can help us. So AI turns this slow, risky process into fast, consistent, and most importantly, transparent. So I think it can minimize human errors, and at the end, contributing to a lower risk and stronger regulatory standing. So in essence, in Izham, I think that we can use technology to protect humans from their own lapses. So giving them a safety net, especially in Islamic banking, where trust is the foundational element.
Right, very, very interesting viewpoint. I would like to highlight to the audience actually, we have actually a very mixed and varied but very experienced and knowledgeable panelists. I would like to highlight why the panelists from different backgrounds actually provide a more meaningful session. To give an example, quite a number of years ago, I actually applied for a senior position at a global government-linked company, right? They have been operating for almost half a decade, providing a critical service to everyone, right? So I was recommended to the job by quite a number of people because they know my credentials, they know my experience. But when I attended the interview, at the end of the interview, they said that they were looking for somebody from the industry. So I actually told them, I come here, I research your organization, I find that you have problems, and you are still trying to solve the problem from somebody within the industry. Whereas if you actually take the viewpoints from someone outside of the industry, probably you get a different solution that might solve your problem. So I think that is the value I think that the panelists are providing here today. So you might be hearing different viewpoints, but I believe they will provide very meaningful and insightful viewpoints. Next, that's enough of my own story. I'll ask Kamtan now, from the central banks, sorry, that's different. I'm asking Roosevelt actually. In a country with a young digital economy, like yourself, you're young compared to me, how do you address the governance challenges of digital fraud? What role do public-private partnerships play in raising awareness and protecting consumers on a broad scale?
Thank you for the question. So I will keep it short. So just like Mr. Chairman Taufik mentioned earlier, fraud is ultimately just a human, criminals to be exact. So criminals, they try to exploit urgency, emergency, attentions, and proof of things. So, but unfortunately, things happen so fast, especially to vulnerable peoples like elders, peoples, and stuff. So, from the as a young nation in the cybersecurity space, we have three things aligned. So, the three things are: first, we set simple rules that public people can follow. Make sure that data centers have secure every citizen's data properly. And second thing is proper obligations to have a single front door for every one that have been falling a victim to scams to be able to have support, so they don't have to go from banks to telecoms to their platforms to complaints. And we also don't want them to go around in circles as well. So we're trying to have a swift redress so that they can have a very clear understanding of what's going on. And we also implement things, a new kind of commitment to be able to alert our citizens and also people who fallen victim to scam within the 24 hours, 48 hours, and 72 hours, so that they have and we also have a multilingual notifications. We are building towards it and learning from Malaysia's experience, especially towards Malaysia's fast transactions and economic coordinations. The experience is invaluable for us as a young nation. So we are trying to contribute back by building our momentum, and also all of this won't happen if we don't have partnership between the private and public sectors. So two things that we will be focusing on about this partnership is we will try to pinpoint the points of charge between both sectors, so that whenever complaints come in, it's just a muscle memories. And then we try to have drills together, and so that we are in synchronized in a way. And also, we will try to do this, especially when there's a special events like New Year's Eve and Khmer New Year, so that we can be able to combat frauds. And we will also try to have a 24/7 timeline where we openly have a 24/7 support to the victims, so that they don't have to freeze their account or waiting to freeze their account until office hours or something like that. So yeah, so governance in terms sets the rule, but partnerships delivers the outcome.
All right, thank you very much. It's very interesting that you mentioned just now, because we've been talking about the human aspect as well as the governance. I think now, and you also mentioned that learning from Malaysia. So I think let's elevate the conversation higher to a regional level, because we have to admit that cyber threats don't actually recognize any borders. It's actually they don't really, it doesn't really matter to them whether you are from one country or the other, whether you are this religion or that religion, this race or that race. So considering that we are a diverse region, but we are also an interconnected one, even from history as well. So our next set of questions will focus on how we can forge a united front against cyber threats that impact all of us. So I'll continue with you, Roosevelt. Looking at ASEAN, what is the biggest barrier to effective cross-border information sharing and collaboration on cybersecurity? What is one practical step that we could take today to overcome it?
Honestly, that is a very difficult question to unfold. So I truly believe that fragmentation is the challenge between cross-border information sharing, especially since we have different privacy rules, information sharings, policies and stuff. So what the practical steps towards this is that we start small, but proven speed. So we can start, especially by building a trusted threat into a pipeline within a few national nation cert at first, so that since Malaysia and Cambodia, I believe, shares the same type of framework, a little bit of the same framework. So in a way, we can share minimal data, but focus on the indications. So in a way, we don't have to share too many of our sensitive data, but we can notice the indication, what indication that may works, what is working, what's not. So we can reuse and keep the positive. And so in a way, if things are looking positive, we can move on and progress to have a quarterly ASEAN drills. So we can practically share our data across the ASEAN countries, such as ourselves. I think that's all from me. Fragmentation, yeah.
Yeah, I think because personally right now in CyberSecurity Malaysia, I am leading the team to actually develop the National Digital Trust and Data Safety Strategy, the 5-year strategy for Malaysia. And one of the main aspects that we are looking at is actually international cooperation and specifically regional cooperation, because there's a lot of harmonization between the policies. I mean, just look at data sharing, for example, you mentioned just now. There is a lot of harmonization that needs to be done, especially since all our Asian countries are moving into the digital economy, right? But I would like to ask Taufik, from the private sector's perspective, or how can a national task force like yours can effectively collaborate with counterparts in other ASEAN countries to track and combat cross-border fraud? What does success look like in this space?
That's a good question. The short answer is that there's a lot more that we can do when it comes to cross-border collaboration. I think we are barely scratching the surface when it comes to collaboration. So the likes of the national task force, and of course we also operate under the, or not under perhaps, with the collaboration of the Association of Banks in Malaysia, AIBIM, and AIBIM. So the Association of Banks also play a role in connecting us with their counterparts in other countries. Because other countries may or may not have a similar task force like ours. But chances are they're going to have the association. So we also use our AIBM and AIBIM colleagues and leadership to help connect us with our counterparts in other countries. So how do we collaborate? The first step, to me, the key ingredient is information sharing. And I know Roosevelt said earlier, that's probably the toughest part. Different privacy standards, different laws, a different level of detail that is being even collected, perhaps by the banks in different countries. So that's a real challenge on the ground that needs to be overcome. And it's not an easy one. I give you one anecdotal example, and maybe to quote the experience of Cambodia, because Maybank, we have presence in Cambodia also. So we decided to strengthen our app security for Maybank in Cambodia. We call it, over there we call it M2U. So the M2U app in Cambodia, we decided to strengthen by applying the same password standards that we have in Malaysia and in other countries. A lot of noises coming from the customers, a lot of complaints. And at first I couldn't understand, why are they complaining? We're protecting them, right? So then I discovered that actually the other banks in Cambodia actually don't apply complex passwords. You only need to key in a simple PIN to access your app. So when Maybank decided to implement complex password, everybody complained. We were not happy that we were flooded with calls, angry customers, telling us, what have you done? Why you make our life so difficult? So again, back to that point about friction, right? Where is that sweet spot between friction, safety, and convenience? So standard is also not the same. Customer expectation and what they are used to in each country is also not the same. So I think we really have our work cut out for us even in information and data sharing, but certainly more needs to be done. The second ingredient that we need to be able to do, even in the absence of information sharing, and I think this is something probably a little bit easier to do, is to apply common best practices. So just apply common best practices. Maybe information sharing is too sensitive. Okay, fine. Just apply common best practices so that we also have many customers who travel in many countries or who have bank accounts across many countries. Maybank, again, as an example, we have customers who have a Maybank Singapore account. They also have a Maybank Malaysia account, or perhaps also a Maybank Indonesia account. So imagine when they travel, and the standards are all different, their experience is different. It doesn't give the best peace of mind to the customer. So how can we apply common standards? And standards are definitely not common. 2 days ago, if you read the news, you would have seen the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, announced that for all accounts with a minimum balance of Singapore dollars 50,000 Sing dollars minimum, if there's any transaction out that is more than 50% of the balance, the bank will withhold the transaction. So there will be a cooling off period. So not cooling off period on increasing your limit. This is cooling off period on actual transaction. They will hold your money first because more than 50% is going out from an account that has a minimum balance of 50,000 Sing. So if, let's say, we decide that is a good best practice for the region, are the other countries prepared to follow? If we follow that in Malaysia, for example, how many angry calls are we going to receive from customers who say, hey, my recipient is complaining because you are holding the payment that is due to them. Right? But Singapore has done it. So one example, and there will be many. So second ingredient is, can we apply common best practices? Third ingredient will probably be the toughest of all to implement. and that is having a legislative framework, a transnational legislative framework. Now that one, I think, I'm not sure whether we will see in our lifetime, let alone in the next few years. But look at the creation of Interpol, for example. So for Interpol to be effective, there is a transnational legal framework that governs the operation of Interpol, that allows them to, to look for and catch criminals wherever they are in the world, especially among countries who sign up, with Interpol. So can something like that be created and enforced on a transnational basis with regards to money flow that goes in and out, so that as soon as a scammer takes the money from a customer in Cambodia and move it to a bank account in Malaysia, we can catch it in Malaysia and effectively return it back to its rightful owner in Cambodia. So having that legislative framework, of course, framework is a framework and will not be effective without proper technology being deployed to enforce it and implement the framework. Of course, technology will be the key underpinnings of that. But if you ask me, I think these will be the three components that can enable better transnational or cross-border collaboration within ASEAN.
All right. It's very interesting because I think you mentioned just now whether we'll see it happen in our lifetime. I mean, if you look at EU, they managed to actually roll out GDPR, not just within EU, but also for other countries dealing with them. So I am cautiously optimistic that ASEAN would be able to come up with something similar for the financial sector. But I would like to go next to Dr. Sarah. You are at the heart of Malaysia's cybersecurity efforts. And how does a national agency like Cybersecurity Malaysia leverage regional partnerships to enhance its own capabilities and contribute to a more secure ASEAN?
So before I answer to that question, I just want to share my experience with banking system. So I hope we have time for that.
Yes, yes. Please.
So last time I wanted to withdraw around 30,000 ringgit Malaysia.
Renovation? No.
Not renovation, as a deposit for an asset. So when I went to the bank, they told me that I have to make 3 separate transactions on 3 different days. Like day 1, 10,000, day 2, 10,000, day 3, 10,000. Then I will get 30,000. So I'm during that time I was shocked because that's my money, and it is me being there. Yeah, you can see my ID. You can see my face. It's clearly me, no one else. Okay, and you can see that my hard-earned money is not red flag. Okay, but what kind? I withdraw 30,000 at one time. So, while being a law-abiding citizen, I follow the rule, of course. Yeah, but then at the back of my mind, I can't help keep thinking like, when I cannot withdraw my own money during peacetime, what more during turmoil time? So you know what, like people like me with technical background or someone else, younger, maybe born in 90 years old, guess where they will spend them, where they will store their money if not in bank? Can you make a guess?
Under
guess?
the pillow or mattress.
That's for people like you. Just joking.
I'm old, yeah.
Yeah, for younger people, where will they put their money? Exactly, cryptocurrency. So I think this is the challenge with bank. You keep mentioning about sweet spot. Yeah, I understand that maybe bank have this regulation, but then as a normal user, I can't help thinking about this, right? So maybe someone wants to comment on this or give me reason why.
I think after what happened a couple of days ago with the Trump announcement that caused that crash in Bitcoin, I think people are maybe moving money back to the banks, hopefully.
Hopefully. The question.
Okay. So the question was about
Regional partnerships, because I think
right, regional partnership in CSM. Yeah.
CSM and other. Yeah.
Okay, all right. In CyberSecurity Malaysia, we operate not only in Malaysia in national technical. We are actually national technical agency, but we also partner with ASEAN countries as well. Yeah, so especially in cybersecurity realm ecosystem. So mostly we leverage collaboration like information sharing, joint research, and coordinated response mechanism like Roosevelt mentioned just now. So for instance, in cybersecurity in Malaysia, we play active role in ASEAN CERT, ASEAN Computer Emergency Response Team, and also AP CERT, Asia Pacific, where members can share real-time threat intelligence, indicators of compromise, IOC, and coordinated response to any attack. So we can share methods of how we deal with this kind of new attack. So not only we collaborate, we also test these initiatives through ASEAN CERT incident drill. We have a incident drill, cyber incident drill, that we test our capability. So all ASEAN countries are able to test their own capability, whether they can protect their country. So this helps Malaysia benchmark its readiness against other member states. So apart of that, on policy standpoint, we also align our Malaysia cybersecurity strategy with the ASEAN Digital Master Plan 2025. So if you go to ASEAN website, there's actually a lot of documentation, a lot of resources, good resources there, including ASEAN Digital Master Plan 2025. We also strengthen our bilateral and multilateral ties through OIC CERT, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, CERT. So it has around 30 plus members countries involved. It is headquartered in Malaysia, so we are permanent secretariat for OIC CERT. So through OIC CERT, we extend our collaboration beyond ASEAN, fostering trust and knowledge and also information sharing. So actually this regional partnership has a tangible benefit for us because especially during major incidents, where like ransomware outbreaks or large-scale phishing campaigns, so we can rapidly access intelligence from partner CERTs and leverage on what they have and improve ourselves. Finally, I think what's equally important other than that is the human network. I find that if we know someone face-to-face, it's much easier to work with rather than contacting him or her through emails or instant messaging. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you very much. I'll move to Kamtan next. From the central bank's view, why is, because I think we raised this earlier, why is a harmonized regulatory framework for cybersecurity across ASEAN is so important for financial stability? How can we ensure that our digital economies grow safely and sustainably together?
Thank you for the question. So from my perspective, harmonized regulatory framework for cybersecurity across ASEAN is not just important, it's essential for financial stability and regional resilience as well. So why this is so critical? First, our financial system, banks, payment platforms, and fintech services are increasingly interconnected across border or ASEAN. So a cyber attack in one country can easily spill over and disrupt our systems in another as well. So that's why strong regional coordination is no longer optional, it's necessary, it must. So second, public trust. So it's the foundation of any financial system as well. When a customer feels confident that their data and assets are protected, so they are more likely to engage in digital services. So harmonize in cybersecurity standards help build the trust by ensuring consistent protections across all Asian countries. So third, unified framework also reduce the compliance burden. So when regulations differ widely from one country to another country, it becomes costly and difficult for financial institutions to operate regionally. So harmonizations allow for smoother operations, more efficient supervision, and lower costs for all involved. And finally, when countries share a common cybersecurity framework, we are in the much better position to respond quickly and collectively to cyber threats. Faster detection or better coordination, and quicker recovery, and also reduce risk to the entire region. So how do we grow our digital economies safely and sustainably together? First, we establish baseline cybersecurity standards across ASEAN for data protection and incident reporting and system resilience as well. Second, build a regional cyber threat intelligence hub to enable real-time information sharing. Third, invest in cyber training and workforce development, including public and private collaboration. Fourth, ensure inclusive security, not just for large institutions, but also for small ones too. So there are no weak points in the system. And lastly, align with global best practices while adapting them to our local and regional contexts. So a harmonized cybersecurity framework is not just about technology. It's about preserving trust, resilience, and continuity in our regional financial system. Without it, our digital globe may move faster than our ability to protect it. Thank you.
All right. Very interesting. Thank you for your views. I think what we've seen here is actually the viewpoints on a regional level, what we can do. And I think there are still a lot of things that as ASEAN, as a grouping, that we can do a lot more. And I hope that this is just this will kickstart further collaboration between our countries. And actually, I've almost run out of questions for the panelists. So this is where I would like to invite all of you who are here today to actually ask your questions to the panelists. You can ask questions that that you think will help you with whatever that you are dealing with in terms of this space. Probably do not ask what they ate for breakfast and all that, but yeah, something related to the topic. Do we have questions? Where did the QR code come out just now? I'm not sure. Did you all receive? So I'll just wait for the technical team to actually project the question. Oh, we have questions actually. All right. I will go straight to the question. First question from the public. Adoption of AI, open banking APIs and cloud technologies. What new unique vulnerabilities do you foresee for banks, and how can we build security in from the ground up? Okay, this question is open to any of the four. Do you feel brave enough to answer it, or shall I move on? Or is it too tough? Anyone? Adoption of AI. So the question is, what new unique vulnerabilities do you foresee for banks, and how can we build security in from the ground up? Because usually when you build security, cybersecurity products or services, is always trust by design. And since I'm actually promoting digital trust, I would usually say it's trust by design, because trust covers a bit more. If you remember just now, we talked about personal data, transparency and all that, right? So trust also includes transparency, accountability, auditability and all that. I wish secure by design is also there. So anyone?
Okay, so I'll take on this question.
Yeah.
In a way, AI is lots of AI adoptions into security tools such as web suites, Nessus, etc., etc. So it's also hard to predict what vulnerabilities that we could foresee in the future. Especially there are tons and tons and tons of software, tons of ways that the attacker can exploit it in. However, since we have seen that AI is not being regulated properly yet around the world. There are no proper framework for it. There are not a really good policy for it to be used, to be exact. So I believe that the most advanced things that AI can do is one, social engineering. There are deepfake voice, deepfake images, and even emails and stuff. And a lot of startups actually have a lot of challenge with those kinds of stuff because they do not have a built-in protection systems yet, like firewalls, etc., that can capture suspicious emails. So I believe that a much more sophisticated phishing type of methods. And one more thing is probably a third-party exploitation library. So if a system were to, you're using a third-party system from a vendor. For example, you're buying a firewall which use a server to host it. Let's say it has engine that's built into it. And let's say engine that is being vulnerable right now. So there's a very high risk that your firewall is also being likely to be compromised by attackers as well. So, and to build security from the ground up is a very, very difficult thing to do. I believe that it's doable, but only to a certain limit. You have to work with the public sectors to find a framework that is suitable for your startup, and also find a way to manage your budgets as well. So it's a very difficult thing to do. So I would say try to, if you can afford, try to hire a consultant, a security consultant, and if possible, maybe a built-in tool such as Vazoos and stuff is also acceptable. Yeah, I think that's my opinion.
All right. I hope that answers this question. Anybody else wants to respond to that, or shall I move? I'll probably move to the next question. All right. Interesting discussion. How can we improve our approach to avoid customers thinking banks are scammers, given their fear of answering calls from unrecognized numbers? Because personally as well, I receive a lot of calls from banks saying that they're from this bank and that bank, and even some banks that I have no dealings with as well. And also calls from insurance agents that actually say they are working with the banks, which, okay. So, I don't know, maybe Taufik would like to pick this up.
Not an easy one because of the prevalence of scams out there. People are rightfully a bit fearful in answering calls. So one of the solutions that I know some banks are working towards, they are not there yet, and Maybank is one of them, is to ensure that all calls are in-app calls. So for example, when you use Grab, how do you communicate with a Grab driver? Do you call directly using your mobile line, or do you call using the Grab app to call, right? Using the Grab app. And the customer wanted to text you or call you is also within the app. So in-app communication, I think, is probably one of the main tools that banks will need to move towards to give this comfort to the customers that when they receive a call, they know if it's an in-app call, it's definitely from my bank. But that alone may not fully solve the problem because not everybody is on the app. So many of you who, let's say, you only take a car loan with that particular bank, you probably don't have the bank's app because you only have a car loan. But your current account, your savings account is with another bank. So this is where there needs to be more thinking about how to approach this. Another way is to, again, from a legislation standpoint, if there is a way to enforce the call identifier, and the call identifier must be registered and governed by the regulatory body. That means this particular number, if this number calls you, it will appear as, say, Maybank calling you, or Bank X calling you, or Bank Y calling you. And nobody else can take that identifier, because to get the identifier, it's actually governed by a regulator. So these are some of the things that, to me, need to come in the future, but a lot of it is still work in progress.
Okay. Anyone else wants to follow up on that? No? All right. I'll move on to the next question, which I think the next question can be answered by any of us. Question from Jimmy. This is a question that perennial question that everyone wants an answer to, actually. If budget is tight, how to prioritize which sort of cybersecurity need to be implemented first? So looking at from the technology as well as the human standpoint, which one should be implemented first? Anyone?
Maybe I can answer.
Okay.
So from the point of view of cybersecurity, we always say that humans is the weakest link. Yeah. So if budget is tight, I know the software solutions are very tremendous in terms of pricing. Then we can maybe focus on human first. Yeah, focus on awareness, our employees, how to take calls, how to prevent incident from happen. So my 2 cents, I think this is the maybe a cheapest method. Yeah, focus on the human. Right, so that would be my answer.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah. And I also would like to add on, it also depends on your business perspective, ways of to engage with the clients as well. If, like Dr. Sarah said, it's the cheapest to train your employees, but it's also what is your business, what's the target of your business, and how are you dealing with clients? Is it mostly depend on third parties and stuff like that? So if it's all built from scratch, yes, the human, but if it's possible to use a third party with proper terms and conditions, I also think that it's worth it to invest in those kinds of stuff as well.
All right. Okay, I'll move on to one more question. What are the common key cyber resilience challenges faced by Islamic financial institutions across ASEAN compared to conventional banks? So this is actually making distinction between Islamic financial institutions and conventional banks. Anybody? Do we actually make a distinction in terms of cyber resilience challenges?
I'm not sure there is a distinction. Technology doesn't differentiate between a Sharia-compliant business or non-Sharia-compliant business. The threat out there, the scammers, the cyber attackers also don't distinguish between whether the target is an Islamic institution or a conventional institution. I'm not sure there is a difference. The only thing is perhaps, I suppose, within the Malaysian context and maybe some other countries, we have the full-fledged Islamic banks that are in control of their entire IT architecture, cybersecurity, resilience. But there are also the universal banks where the Islamic banking is part of a larger group that use what we call a leverage model. So that means that Islamic banks themselves do not have a separate IT team, a separate IT budget, a separate IT infrastructure, architecture. Everything resides on a common platform. So this is where, if you ask me, there needs to be a considered approach so that when we design the security protocols to cover the cybersecurity aspects of the IT infrastructure that you have, that you must make sure that you consciously cover the needs of both organizations. Because although they reside on the common architecture, there may be certain, possibly there may be certain vulnerability that may be unique to Islamic finance institution because the products are different.
Anyone else, fellow panelists, you want to? No? All right. There's also a question from Iskandar Kamil. What's the best approach for balancing cybersecurity investments and business priorities? Anybody from? No.
Maybe I'll take a step at that. I'm not an IT person, but I've sat in enough committee meetings and management meetings discussing and balancing between these two requirements. I think this goes back to also the earlier question that says if budget is tight, how to prioritize. Actually, the question shouldn't be if budget is tight. Budget is always tight.
Yes.
Right? So, because no banks, no matter how large, have a bottomless pocket. No banks. No governments either. So everybody, every organization have a limited budget. So what's the best approach within that limited budget, within the financial constraints? What's the best approach to balance cybersecurity and your business priorities, chasing growth, chasing profitability, delivering customer satisfaction? So to me, it begins with you knowing what are the must-haves, what are the non-negotiables when it comes to cybersecurity. Focus on the non-negotiables. You may have a long list of cybersecurity capabilities that you would like to deliver, but your budget wouldn't allow you to deliver all of them. So you need to be absolutely clear, working either with your own IT team or with a security consultant, as was suggested earlier, to guide you into deciding what are the must-haves, what are the non-negotiables. The moment you have the non-negotiables, then you need to decide, okay, the non-negotiables, I must carve out a certain part of my budget. This is the must-do. Then beyond that, the remaining budget, then you say, okay, now I have the remaining pot of money that I can spend on doing the nice-to-haves on cybersecurity or giving me better technology capability to improve my business growth or my business profitability. So that's where that balancing act, that cost-benefit analysis will have to come. But you will not get there until you first decide what are the non-negotiables. To me, that's the start for any conversation around cybersecurity in the context of budget constraint.
All right. I hope that answers the question. Okay, one last one from the public. Where does liability for deepfake scams lie? With banks for technology failure, or is it with customers for being victims? I would also like to highlight that actually my profile picture that you see is actually generated via AI. I was wearing a very brightly colored Hawaiian shirt actually, and you can actually see it was in a suit. Anyway, anybody wants to really take this on? What does liability for deepfake scams lie? Is it with the bank, with banks for technology failure, or is it customers for victims? Because right now, even voice calls can actually be wholly AI generated, right?
Maybe I'll take that on also. In a life is never black and white. Unfortunately, the reality is that there's a lot of gray areas. And this is probably one of them. In fact, in Malaysia and in many other countries, in Europe, even in Singapore, there is this concept that is called joint culpability. And this is where regulators and banks have already recognized that in any scam cases, not just from deepfake, even from social engineering, from malware, there are instances that necessitate joint culpability. The victims also at fault, the banks also at fault. And maybe there are also some other parties that are at fault. I'll give you one example. Say, customer decides to do an unusually large transfer, and that triggered something in the bank's warning system. Hey, this customer has never done this largest transfer. His transfer in his history has never exceeded 5,000 ringgit. Suddenly he's doing a 50,000 ringgit transaction. So there is a warning, right? So the warning bell comes out. The bank, let's say, like assuming a hypothetical example, the bank decide to call the customer. Customer didn't answer. This is to verify, like, is this you? Is this genuine? But the customer didn't answer. So the bank said, okay, I've done my job. I've called the customer. Call was not connected, but I've done my part to call the customer, and therefore I released the money. And then later the customer found out, oh, damn, I've been scammed. And the customer calls the bank. So who's at fault? So that's not a deep fake, but that's a customer falling for maybe the greed, fear, or love scam, decided to transfer the money out of his own will. That means he or she himself participated, but the bank had the opportunity to prevent it, but didn't. So who's at fault? So not so easy, right? It's not black and white. So that is where the concept of joint culpability may come. Now, whether the sharing is 50-50, 40-60, 30-70, I'm sure all banks will have certain frameworks that will guide their decision. But it's never black and white.
I agree. It's never clear. It's not a clear line delineation where this is 50-50 or otherwise. I think well, thank you very much, everyone, for your questions. I think it's time for us to wrap up. I think we've covered quite a lot of ground today, and I think there's a lot of information, knowledge that we need to unpack later on when we get back home or to the office. But to end the session, I would like to ask everyone on this panel one single forward-looking question. Well, one plus two questions basically. In one sentence, what is the most critical investment, be it in technology, policy, or people, that ASEAN must make right now to safeguard the future of Islamic finance? And also, I would like to also ask if you can also share any last, parting messages or insights that you want to share with the audience today. So I'll start with Dr. Sarah. What is the one technology investment that will define our future?
Okay, so if I have to choose one technology, so it will definitely be the convergence of trusted AI and blockchain. Yeah. So trusted AI gives us the ability to predict, to respond, to threat faster, and more intelligently. While blockchain gives us the trust layer, it provides us with the trust layer, because blockchain, it is, in essence, blockchain and trusted AI, it provides transparency, integrity, and immutability of transaction. So I want to talk more about blockchain. So the beauty of blockchain is once the data is being stored on the block, so it is immutable, meaning that it is irreversible, and we cannot edit the transaction, cannot edit the record anymore. So meaning each record cannot be tampered with. Yeah. So like, well, we talked about crypto before this. Yeah? So Bitcoin, for example, once a transaction has been broadcasted to the block, so there's no way that we can reverse the transaction. So let's say if I transfer my fund, my crypto, into an account number, and the account number is wrong, so I didn't realize about this, so there goes my crypto, so I cannot undo it back. So as we move towards greater automation and adoption of technologies like this AI and also blockchain, I believe that there should still be a space for human interaction. Not only rely solely on technology, but focusing as well on human interaction. A channel where user like me can pledge our case, can explain our situation, and can seek assistance. So like if I have issue comparing to me talking to chatbot and talking to real human, I would rather prefer real human. Yeah, still we are talking about human interaction. Yeah. So after all, we are all human beings, and while we value technology, we still find comfort in dealing with human, as I mentioned just now, and not just like algorithm. So normal users like me, like myself, we would love to see that banks see us as human and not just a number in the ledger. Yeah. All right. So as a parting statement, So yeah, I've read something. I've just come across statement from Kishore Mahbubani. So Kishore Mahbubani is a Singaporean, and he is a two-time former president of UN Security Council. So he stated that the 21st century will be remembered as the ASEAN century. It's a huge statement, yeah? So it is our moment as ASEAN. But if we don't secure our digital infrastructure, we could also be remembered as the century of cyber collapse. So that's my ending message. Right.
Ooh,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Sarah. Very deep. Next topic. What is the one human investment that will define our future?
The one human investment that I would focus on is education. And I think that is central to everything that we do, not just to consumers. How many of you are parents in this hall? You got young kids, and you know do you let your kids play Roblox? Right. Okay. So how do you educate, right, the kids about the dangers? I mean, how do you protect them from the dangers of Roblox? It's through education. Okay, the stricter parents may say cannot play. So I still allow my kids to play. But you know what I train my kids? I train my kids to be able to play on a private server, and only with their circle of friends whom they know. No outside player can join them in that game, right? So my kids, even as young as 9, 10 years old, they were able to set up their own private server to play Minecraft, right? And they are trained to do that. And that's the education that I'm a dinosaur when it comes to, if I need to set a private server, I have to call my IT department, right? But my kids can do it for themselves to play Minecraft, to play Roblox, right? So education is paramount. And maybe if you can just flash that final slide that I have, just to show what the National Task Force have done also when it comes to education, if they have. But if they don't, then that is okay, right? Under the National Task Force, I'm sure many of you who are Malaysian have seen this Jangan Kena Scam campaign. It's an education campaign. So Jangan Kena Scam, to my overseas colleagues here, means don't get scammed. So in Malay, it's Jangan Kena Scam. So you see, so that's the slides, right? So many different education events. And you know, when it comes to banking service, we always talk about hyper-personalizing our products and solutions. In educating people, it should also be hyper-personalized, because not everything will appeal to everybody. The program that we have at Jom Hebo, you will never find me there. For me, I get a headache if I go to an event like Jom Hebo with thousands of people around there and sweating and hot, you know. But a lot of people love it. The artists will remind them, Jangan Kena Scam, and it appeals to them. So we got to do more education, and the education need to be hyper-personalized to the audience that we are targeting.
Any last words for the audience message? That's already it, right? The message.
I think just we have to own it ourselves. I think back to the very first message that I said at the start, we have to own the protection of our own assets. We want our assets to be safe. Don't depend on anybody else. Educate ourselves. Make sure that we are aware. Change password often, as you said, right? Don't share it with anybody. Never share your credentials. Always know that the police, Bank Negara, National Scam Response Center will never call you directly, right? These are the things that we need to equip. Don't depend on people telling you. Don't depend on banks telling you. Don't depend on the task force telling you. These are all icing on the cake. The cake is we must own it ourselves to educate ourselves, our family, our kids, our parents.
True. Thank you. Next, Roosevelt. What is the one governance investment that will define our future?
So there are a lot of things that I can choose from, but if there's only one thing, I believe it's an independent personal data preventions, because in a way, it unlocks crucially a lot of things like citizens redress and the what do you call it? And firms' predictabilities. In a way, they will, if this happens and implemented properly, there will be no fee in oversharing on data. And also, especially since AI now is a huge thing, it will also, in a way, prevent data from suspicious and high-risk AI softwares as well. Yes, so that's my take.
Any final messages to the audience from you?
Probably a little bit cheesy, but stay safe, both in real world and digital world, please. And everything that you learn from here, I would kindly encourage to share around people surrounding you, important and non-important people,
Family,
yes,
friends.
family member, friends, strangers. I believe that soon we will live in a digital world. We will spend more time in digital world rather than in real world. So yeah, it's very important to stay safe.
All right, thank you, Rizal. Now, Kamtan, what is the one policy investment that will define our future?
Thank you for the question. So I also do agree with the share. So I would prefer invest in the education, but ethical education. So before coming here, I got an invitation. In that one word mentioned ethical. So people nowadays, and one word I heard from him, that greedy. So it's about people. When we need more in cyber, when we need more, we're gonna lose more. Because of the greedy, when we greed about money, they send the link, they send something via link. Though we try to click the link because we need more money. They said it's kind of greedy. And second, people lack of ethics. Human is more dangerous than technology.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, sometimes.
So if the cyber attack happened because of people has lack of ethics or ethical. So we must remember technical alone is not enough. So the real threat often lies in the absence of ethical behavior. So cybercrime happens because of people. So digital security must go hand in hand with ethical education and human capital development. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, I think we've come to the end of the session, and I would like to thank all participants for actually sitting down with us for the whole almost 2 hours, and some actually from the beginning without any coffee break. So give a clap to yourselves. And I would like to ask everyone in the audience to actually give a round of applause for my distinguished panelists for their time and their sharing of experience. And thank you on behalf of the organizers. I would like to thank you everyone for coming here today. And I hope that all of you actually, we've learned I personally learned quite a few things, something new. That's what I try to do, learn something new every day. So, and with that, I'll pass over back to the MC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the moderator and panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause to all of them. Thank you so much for a thought-provoking discussion. And we'd like to invite all of the panelists and moderator to step forward for a group photo first. Ladies and gentlemen, as we strengthen our cyber defense, let's remember resilience isn't just about protection. It's about preserving the trust that defines Islamic finance and the ASEAN community. To the moderator and panelists, please remain on the stage as we would like to kindly invite Puan Ratna Shariah-compliant, Executive Director of AIBIM, to present the memento to our panelists and moderator. Starting off to receive the memento, please welcome Mr. Syed Ahmad Taufiq Alba. Please welcome Mr. Syed Ahmad Taufiq. Next, please welcome Mr. Kamtan Pandanuvong from Laos. Next, please welcome Mr. Tang Roosevelt from Cambodia. Next, please welcome to receive the memento is Dr. Sarah Khadijah Taylor. And last but not least, please welcome Mr. Ahmad Izham, our moderator for this session. And can we have another group photo with the memento and with Puan Ratna Shariah once again? Thank you very much. Yeah, please show the memento to the camera. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let us give a round of applause to our moderator and panelists for this session on cybersecurity track. Thank you very much. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this session. Ladies and gentlemen, you are invited to enjoy the refreshment as you go. And thank you very much, everyone. I hope to see you all again in the future, inshallah. With that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.